The Vatican. The eyes of 1.2 billion Catholics are forever turned towards its 44 hectares and the cupola of St. Peter's Basilica, the epicenter of their faith. The Vatican counts 921 citizens, but also 2,600 employees, 110 Swiss guards, the officials who make up the Curia, and over 5 million tourists and pilgrims. They converge on the Vatican to take part in a meal. The Catholic Mass is a metaphorical meal where Christ's body and blood are consumed.
Catholic doctrine dictates that during the communion sacrament, the bread turns into flesh and the wine into blood. The Eucharist is a feast.
As for more worldly fare, it's not uncommon for official guests to be disappointed, as slap-up meals have not been part of protocol for many years. Official guests arrive in San Damasco courtyard. They have to walk very slowly. They meet the Pope, who rings a bell, causing an influx of journalists. Each member of the delegation is introduced to the Pope. Gifts are exchanged, confidences are shared, farewells are said. All hungry work. Will they be able to eat soon? No. The visitor then has to go and see the Secretary of State, otherwise known as the Vatican's Prime Minister. As for an official lunch, well, there isn't one. The Swiss guards return to their barracks. Yet from Eve's apple to the Bible's many miracles, food is an important aspect of Christianity. The Vatican Library is one of the oldest in the world. It's run by French Archbishop Jean-Louis Bruguès.
Does everyone in the Vatican eat well? I can't promise you that. I've been a guest of Vatican people for whom cuisine was not a major preoccupation. But I think that if you came to my place, you would find it satisfactory.
John Paul II was Pope from 1978 to 2005. He was a strategist, but also a keen sportsman. He was fond of skiing, swimming, and had a great appetite. Eric Lebec, a Vatican expert and former secret archive collaborator and a writer of a biography of Pope Benedict XVI, remembers Jean Paul II's time in office.
It was traditional for the Pope to dine alone. John Paul II chose to have guests, which had not been the case before. And as far as I can tell, he really had working meals. So the Romans, who were invited to share his table, hoped for a friendly reunion, but in fact, they were working meals, and they were not particularly happy about it.
Menu-wise, this was no five-star table. John Paul II's mind was often on Rome's Polish church Santo Stanislao del Polacchi, which reminded him of home. It now houses his cassock and a drop of his blood. It's said that John Paul II had a nostalgic yearning for his favorite cake, kremovka, made from 2 layers of puff pastry filled with a thick layer of crème pâtissière. However, the Polish Pope's fondness for this cake was just a myth, born from a speech he gave in his native town of Wadowice. Don Antonio, St. Stanislao's priest, tells the story of how the legend evolved.
When Pope John Paul II went back to Poland the first time, the final leg of his trip obviously took him to Wadowice, the town where he was born. So, at one stage, he pointed out the theatre and said, "We performed Sophocles' Antigone there." And he recited some of his character's lines. This delighted his young audience, and he said, "Yes, I still remember it, because I was a good student." And the crowd applauded. Then he said, "There was a bakery over there." Then he paused, and then he laughed, saying, "After my exams, we used to go there and eat kremówki."
Po maturze chodziliśmy na kremówki.
The young Karol Wojtyła loved cream cakes, but it was really after his speech that the Wadowice bakery became famous. John Paul II's favorite dish was, in fact, a classic of Polish cuisine, pierogi.
Obviously, most of the food that was prepared for him was Italian, but he preferred traditional Polish dishes like pierogi. To make pierogi, sweat some onions in a pan with a knob of butter and a splash of oil. Make a good pasta dough. The filling is made with seasoned mashed potato mixed with the fried onions and cream cheese. It mustn't be too smooth. It must have lumps. Discs of dough are then filled with the potato mix. And then they are cooked in boiling salted water. As soon as they float to the surface, they're ready. It's said that John Paul II found that this invigorating dish gave him the energy he needed to go skiing or swimming in the pool he had built at Castel Gandolfo, the papal summer residence.
A big fan of ice cream, but unable to go out and buy it himself, the Pope would send special envoys to Nazareno Giolitti, ice cream maker to the stars, whose clientele included Audrey Hepburn, John Travolta, Sharon Stone, and the Obamas.
One day a man turned up here from the Vatican. He wanted to give His Holiness a present. He told me that the Pope loved candied chestnuts. I said, "All right then, if that's the case, I'm going to create a candied chestnut-flavoured ice cream." After that, whenever the Pope stayed at his summer residence at Castel Gandolfo, there would always be Giolitti, candied chestnut ice cream, available. Eventually, the nuns who prepared his meals started getting jealous. So we found a compromise. Not every day, but once a week, he could tuck into Giolitti's candied chestnut ice cream.
Assaggiamo il marron glacé, dai.
The intellectual Pope Benedict XVI had an equivocal approach to culinary matters, but this didn't prevent him, when he was missing Germany, from enjoying a plate of Munich Weisswurst, or white sausage. Before he became Pope, Cardinal Ratzinger used to frequent a restaurant in his district, the Cantina Tirolese.
He came here in winter because he lived nearby. He would come in after taking a walk around the neighborhood. He loved soups, minestrone, and so on. He came here to eat because he enjoyed soups and Austrian food, like frittata in soupe. An allemande is a type of pancake cut into thin strips like fettuccine and soaked in the broth. He drank very little alcohol, small beer or a glass of wine, but he mainly drank water, not much alcohol.
Benedict XVI was, and still is, a man who lives a life of great austerity and simplicity, making do with a small amount of food. He had very few guests, and most of them were students whose doctoral theses he was guiding.
Cardinal Bergoglio was an Argentinian of Italian descent. He had simple tastes which reflected not just his humility, but also his extraordinary capacity for adaptation. These days, Gustavo Vera is a member of Parliament, but he knew Pope Francis when, still Cardinal Bergoglio, he supported Vera's organization La Alameda.
There were certain Argentinian dishes which reminded him of home. For example, in Argentina we have alfajores. It's not good for him to eat too many of them, but he does like them. He also likes empanadas.
Like John Paul II, Pope Francis has a sweet tooth. He was a regular customer at the Corso sweet shop, founded in 1937 by Emilio Heiberger, whose widow, Norma, now runs the business.
These were Pope Francis's favorite. He often used to send someone to buy some for him. He's particularly partial to the dulce de leche flavored ones. When he wanted to give someone a present, he would buy them sweets. Yes, I know him. And I even gave him some Tuscan chocolate. So he sent me a rosary and a letter in his beautiful, delicate handwriting. It's the loveliest thing I own. Does he keep the sweets for himself? No, he shares them with other people. I'm sure he doesn't eat them himself. I know he shares them. The bishop of my diocese went to a meeting in the Vatican with people from all over the place, and he told me that when they had coffee, he put a kilo box of our chocolates on the table for everyone to share.
Pope Francis occasionally takes his meals in the staff canteen or the Swiss Guards mess, or in the refectory at the Domus Santa Marta, where he lives. His suite, number 201, consists of a bedroom, an office, and a lounge.
Whenever he invites me to the Vatican, knowing I can't afford to stay in a hotel, he puts me up at Santa Marta. He invites me to have lunch and dinner with him. We spend time together, drinking Maté, sharing things. When he goes to the refectory, he doesn't keep himself to himself. He is treated just like everyone else. Same plates, same cutlery, same everything. And he eats the same as everyone else. Sometimes soup, sometimes pasta, sometimes chicken. He doesn't eat a lot for health reasons, but he isn't treated to any privilege.
In the Vatican, nobody knows exactly what food is cooked in the kitchens, but the rule of thumb is simple. Temperance is the watchword. Anyone wanting caviar, lobster or foie gras will have to go and find it elsewhere. Nuns, many of them from Poland or Holland, do the cooking, preparing traditional fare. Pasta and pizzas abound.
The food at Santa Marta is similar to what we eat in Argentina. Our eating habits have their roots in Spanish and Italian tradition, so there isn't much difference.
An excess of sugary and starchy foods compelled Francis's doctors to put him on a diet. Since then, he has eaten mainly skinless chicken, salads and fruit. There is another commandment followed in the Vatican. No green salad or spaghetti with tomato sauce, other than for intimate private meals. To understand why, we head to Gamarelli, tailor to the pontiffs since 1798. Fittings are sometimes informal. And sometimes take place in the secrecy of the cubicle reserved for the clergy. We came across a mozzetta made for a French cardinal, Jean-Louis Torrent. All over the shop there are mitres, skullcaps and silk cassocks. The slightest splash of sauce and they would be ruined. The colour of the garment varies according to rank. Purple for a bishop, red for a cardinal and white for a pope. Whenever there's a papal election, Gamarelli makes outfits in 3 sizes, small, medium and large. The elected pope will choose one before appearing on the balcony of St. Peter's. It's time for the cardinals and perhaps even the pope himself to take delivery of their new chasubles or court shoes. The deliveries are made discreetly with this ordinary-looking van. Most of the Vatican citizens have their meals at home. The clergy often have palaces where nuns cook and serve their meals. But when political matters are involved, it's best to avoid the hushed ambience of high-end restaurants. The best places are popular pizzerias, where the hubbub masks any secretive conversations. Other private discussions take place in quieter establishments. Many secret meetings take place, especially during synods or before conclaves. One such place near the Pantheon has been the backdrop to many machinations and plots, especially during the period when the flamboyant Paul Marcinkus had linked the Vatican's finances to occult or criminal organizations. Any interlopers carrying cameras are not welcome at l'eau vive and will be isolated and served in one of the private dining rooms on the first floor, one of the very ones, with their magnificent ceilings, where the cardinals hide away when they're conspiring. Should they come again with their cameras out of sight this time, they will be led to the big dining room on the ground floor, where the clergymen meet their friends and one can speak peacefully about the future of the church. The cuisine is French. Nuns, most of them from Africa and Asia, cook and serve the food. Woe betide anyone caught filming. The eau vive's religious order is the subject of legal actions and has been attacked for its outdated social practices. However, what is clear to the visitor is a sincere and rather touching sense of faith, which is expressed after the meal with prayer and dancing.
The Lord is my shepherd. I'll not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures.
Holy See's staff are often to be seen at l'Isola della Pizza and La Victoria, two restaurants less than 200 meters from the border. La Victoria's best customers are the Swiss Guards. When you see a table of young men, all clean-shaven, happy and well-mannered, there can be no doubt. The Guards have changed out of their tricolored uniforms while they have lunch. The Swiss Guard is the world's smallest army. It was founded in the early 16th century and consists of 110 men, all Swiss. They have to be unmarried apart from the officers and practicing Catholics. Contrary to popular belief, their uniform was not designed by Michelangelo, but by a commander of the Guard who, at the beginning of the 20th century, was inspired by a fresco by Raphael. Swiss Guards have to salute all day long. They practice wielding their halberds while performing one of the world's slowest military marches. And they stand guard, interminably, outside the Pope's official apartment, for instance. The other restaurant which welcomes the Swiss Guards with open arms is the Isola della Pizza.
The Swiss Guard have been eating here for the last 30 years. They feel at home here.
But one particular Swiss Guard is especially popular here.
Former Swiss Guard David Geiser is a great chef, a really great chef.
The reason David Geiser is so popular is that he has even published a recipe book. We went to Zurich to meet this recently demobilized Swiss Guard who knows how to cook.
For me, it was always a dream to go to the Swiss Guard, to be at Rome. Father was also a Swiss Guard, and he told us and a lot of stories about his time, and so I was very fascinated when I was a young boy.
I swear I will faithfully, loyally and honourably serve the Supreme Pontiff Francis and his legitimate successors and dedicate myself to them with all my strength, sacrificing, if necessary, my life to defend them.
Für ihren Schutz selbst mein Leben hinzugeben. The sisters, which one cook for us, they have a day free. And in this day, you could say, okay, I will cook today for the Swiss Guard, and I make this one time in the month.
When his comrades come for lunch, David takes over from the Sisters of Divine Providence.
In the time of Advent, to make biscuits or Lebkuchen, something like this, or for a feast in the Swiss Guard or for the commanders sometimes.
Fillet of beef with girole mushrooms. Onions, giroles, tomato, balsamic vinegar and parmesan shavings. This is a dish typical of the kind of food served daily to the colonel of the Swiss Guard, as well as the cardinals of the Curia in their palaces. The Swiss Guard's role is to ensure, with the Vatican's police force, the security of the general audiences, which take place every Wednesday.
You don't see normally a Swiss Guard to fight, because you see only this if something is wrong, and we hope never that we are in a situation like this. But for example, 1981, yes, it was also with John Paul II a situation like this, and then you have to be ready.
The general audiences attract pilgrims from all over the world. Many of them want to offer the Pope gifts of sweets or cakes.
La pace sia con voi e con il tuo spirito.
Most of these edible gifts for the Pope are shared out around the Vatican. How can anyone be sure that none of them have been poisoned? We asked David Geisser.
And about this thing, I cannot say so much.
Sono lieto di accogliere I crescimenti della diocesi di Faenza Modigliana.
Could it be that the Vatican's love of food outweighs its prudence?
On peut dire qu'il y a un bonheur de vivre.
You could say there is a sense of enjoyment, a joie de vivre associated with a religious life. And that's reflected in the images of monks or other clergymen used to sell cheeses, beer or wine. Even the Carthusian order, which is very serious, produces some fine liqueurs. There is a great monastic tradition of wanting to prepare remedies, which taste nice. So moving from remedies to good food could lead to gluttony. If you eat too much, you will get ill one day, and you will be put on a diet and you will pay for your excesses. So this is a question of health. But it is also a deadly sin. That means it could lead to other sins. And if you can't resist the urge to eat, how will you be able to resist any other temptation? The fact is that we're not used to comparing greed to poverty. We are only thinking about greed in itself. We believe we are greedy because we have to be. We want to devour, consume and possess. The Catholic Church's dietary recommendations have been reduced to the very simplest things. It advises that no meat should be eaten on Good Friday, usually to economize and be able to give to the poor.
Privation and asceticism are no longer the goal. In fact, such things often led to conceit. Christianity accepts that a meal can also be a moment of pleasure.
Jesus' best lessons took place around the table, with sinners, with everyone. The Eucharist is the great feast.
Perducat nos rex aeterne gloriae.
A meal can be a time to reflect or to relax. In any case, thanks are given to God for answering the prayers which ask Him to give us today our daily bread. Sharing is the true spirit of a Christian mealtime. Conviviality reflects one's concern for one's fellow man, and this has become the definition of Western eating habits. Founded in Buenos Aires after the financial crisis of 2001, La Alameda is an organization which leads the fight against human trafficking, forced labor, child exploitation, and procuring. La Alameda's main supporter was always the Cardinal of Buenos Aires, Jorge Bergoglio, the future Pope Francis. Nowadays, Olga Cruz works at the Alameda Foundation as a seamstress, but it was hunger that initially brought her here.
I discovered Alameda 12 years ago when I was pregnant with my third child. I was looking for somewhere to eat. At that time, during the crisis, there was no work. I came here because I was hungry. I was welcomed in and I stayed.
The primary act of human kindness is to feed the hungry, and Cardinal Bergoglio did just that alongside his friends at the Alameda. He frequented this canteen where he would sit and share a table with the poor.
This is the refectory kitchen. We cook here every day. All the communal tasks are done by volunteers. There are a few families who do the cooking, and everyone looks after the refectory. At that time, when the Pope was a cardinal, he would come and eat with us.
This photo shows Pope Francis serving food to the needy at the time when he was Bishop of Buenos Aires.
When he came to the refectory, he would eat stew, meat, mashed potatoes, and homemade empanadas.
The Eucharist's food sharing symbolizes one of the cornerstones of Christian charity. For Catholics, sharing the host and holy wine is a way for them to commune with their God and gather around him.
Guard?
Everything starts with the bread, sometimes in the most unexpected places. Former police officer Gabriela Caballero is serving a sentence for murder in a prison near Buenos Aires. In the heart of the prison, she has created a host bakery. The very simple procedure is compatible with prison life. Water and flour are mixed to make a smooth batter, which is then cooked in a kind of waffle iron into which religious motifs are carved. The hosts are then cut, large ones for the priest and the smaller ones for the worshippers. But the story really starts when the bishop of her diocese gave Pope Francis himself a bag of Gabriela's hosts along with a letter from the incarcerated woman. This was the beginning of a miraculous chain of events. She soon learned that the Pope had decided to use her hosts to celebrate his private morning mass at Santa Marta.
I couldn't believe it. It was like a dream. Something I never believed could happen. I didn't dare believe it. I didn't want to get my hopes up. He hadn't been Pope for very long. Vatican, July 17th, 2013. Dear Gabriela, Monsignor Ejeda brought me your letter. Thank you for your confidences and for the hosts. From tomorrow I shall use them when celebrating Mass, which will make me happy. Your letter made me think, and I will pray for you. In any case, I am happy that you're praying for me. I will keep you in my heart. Thank you again for writing to me and sending the photos. They are on my desk in front of me. May Jesus bless you and the Holy Virgin protect you. Yours, Francisco. It happens to me every time I read the letter. I get as emotional as the first time I read it. He also sent me 2 photos, one of him and this one. I always keep them with me. I am so proud to know somebody so important and so inaccessible. Despite the distance between us, I have managed to reach the Vatican with my hosts.
Poder llegar al Vaticano desde este lugar de encierro con las hostias y que más que nada.
What makes me happiest of all is that he knows from a place as dark as this, something beautiful can appear.
Se hacen cosas tan lindas. Y hay talleres.
I wanted him to know about my workshop and what we do here, the men as well as the women. The floodgates have opened.
The Holy Communion is presented like a proper meal.
It is a sacred meal, where one does not merely eat, but the whole celebration of the Eucharist is an immersion in eternity. There has to be a transubstantiation of the bread into flesh and the wine into blood, and for the body to be totally sacrificed, since the blood has left the body. And in Jewish tradition, blood was the soul.
For the meal to be complete, wine must be drunk. Marina Beltrame is a Buenos Aires sommelier. She particularly likes an Argentinian wine, which is also said to be the Pope's favorite. Today, Valentin, the wine's producer, has come to speak to her.
Hey, ¿cómo va? ¿Todo bien? Qué bueno, vamos a brindar para empezar por este reencuentro.
We heard rumors, and to our astonishment, it turned out that our wine was Pope Francis' favorite. We couldn't believe it. We wonder why it was the Pope's favorite, as there are so many wines in Argentina.
He's a very humble, simple person. And the wine is also humble and unpretentious, very authentic, just like he is.
It's a blend of Malbec, Cabernet, and Merlot, and we play around with the measures.
I love the fact that it's so smooth in your mouth. It's like velvet. It's fruity. It isn't complex. Its simplicity is what makes it great. It's like Francis.
But the thing that Pope Francis likes most of all is Maté, an infusion of wild herbs that's very popular in Argentina. It's drunk from a calabash through a metal straw fitted with a filter.
Yes, he drinks a lot of Maté, we all do.
He drinks his Maté, he has his Maté, and then he goes through the same routine he used to go through when he was here. He gets up early, does his spiritual exercises, he reads, he meditates a lot, and then a few hours later he has his breakfast and then goes about his normal business.
Pope Francis, then, is a moderate drinker. However, nothing but wine is acceptable when celebrating Mass. This fact has forced theologians, for example, to find acceptable ways of accommodating priests suffering from alcoholism.
I take Mass here at the hospital every day. I get the wine I use from nuns. It's a very mellow, very yellow wine, as if it was Madeirized, and it's very sweet. The wine must be from a single grape variety. Sweet wines are better than dry wines because they don't lose their flavor as much. They last longer. Ultimately, it is faith which preserves the wine's quality, and the rich notes in a more elaborate wine lead me to the blood of God.
The priest's obligation to drink wine during Mass does not, however, explain this mystery. Wine consumption in the Vatican is the highest in the world. 99 bottles a year for each person, twice as high as in a country like France. But this is not down to any bad example set by the popes. Paul VI drank no more than a glass of whiskey at bedtime. John Paul II didn't even drink Polish vodka. Benedict XVI was happy with a German beer or a small glass of wine. Francis is certainly no alcoholic. The Vatican's disproportionate wine consumption can be explained by its demographic profile. Fewer than 1,000 people have Vatican citizenship, most of them middle-aged, childless male hedonists in a high socio-economic bracket. Archetypal wine drinkers, then. This is what is responsible for the statistics. The Vatican's wine comes from all over the world. Other produce is grown in the shadow of St. Peter's Basilica. Vegetables from this garden, for instance, end up in the Pope's salad bowl. All the other fresh foods come from the Pope's summer residence at Castel Gandolfo. Castel Gandolfo sits on the shores of Lake Albano, 24 kilometers southeast of Rome. The papal palace stands in the heart of the walled city, which has a population of 9,000. The palace and its outbuildings are built on the site of the 1st century summer residence of the Roman Emperor Domitian and were acquired by the Vatican in the 16th century. The palace square is home to the world's first public post box. Nearby, overhanging the lake, are the papal farm and the gardens. Nobody is allowed in without special authorization. When the Holy Fathers wish to escape Rome's muggy summer, they come here to sit and relax in these Italian gardens, not far from the ruins of Domitian's palace and the theatre. Castel Gandolfo's director, Giannoli Osvaldo, gave us permission to film far away from the tourist circuit within the private and agricultural domains.
There's a tree here which is even older. It's more than 500 years old. That means that these trees were already here when Napoleon was sweeping across Europe.
Castel Gandolfo's farm, a model agricultural business, stretches over 25 hectares around a farm built in the 1930s. Alessandro Reali is the director of the papal farms.
These are young Limousin bulls. They're going to be sold for breeding. And these are Friesians, they're dairy cows. They provide a great deal of high-quality milk. We keep the calves in pens for 2 to 3 months. Then the heifers are taken to the fields to be fertilized.
The stables are washed thoroughly several times a day, and everything is done to ensure the animals don't get stressed.
This is our latest arrival.
The Pope's cows are fed on molasses, hay, and a beetroot puree which is prepared especially for them. These champions of milk production really get the 5-star treatment. They share the affections of Castel Gandolfo's staff with a pair of white donkeys which were a gift to Benedict XVI. And a pair of grey donkeys which were given to Pope Francis. Once it has been treated, the milk they produce can be used as a substitute for babies who have certain allergies. Two ostriches keep watch on the Pope's chicken coops. This avian village is home to 350 free-range Livonian hens, which provide eggs, and almost as many raised for their meat.
This is the yogurt fermenting machine,
And this one fills the pots.
This is the milk container.
This is the pasteurization machine, and conservation is over here before it goes over there for packaging.
Our whole production line starts with unpasteurized milk. We get whole milk, semi-skimmed milk, butter, ricotta, and other more mature cheeses. Those are a few of the products that we make. They go to the Pope's larder and also are used to feed the Curia. Anything else goes to the Vatican supermarket. Every morning, a van delivers the farm's produce to the Vatican, where it will end up on the Pope's table. A full selection of products grown without artificial fertilizers or other chemicals.
Pope Francis is a green pope. As Christians, we are once again getting serious about our responsibilities at the heart of nature. When a Jesuit like Bergoglio speaks of faith, it is undoubtedly linked to a global vision of the world, of its reality, and to protection of the environment. We're starting to feel a sense of affection and, why not, friendship towards the planet.
Castel Gandolfo's oil production illustrates this preoccupation with serving nature and not exploiting it. In 2015, the Pope's second encyclical, Laudato Si', moved away from the biblical concept of man being master of the earth and the life on it. Everything here is done in the traditional way, picking the olives, cold pressing with ancient millstones. These olives were picked just half an hour ago. They are never in the crates for any more than half an hour. The olives are pressed and the oil and water come out through tubes and into tanks. And then from the reservoirs, it goes into the decanter where the oil is separated from the water. The managers of the farm and Castel Gandolfo taste the oil before it's sent to the Pope's table. The oil that we have just made is going to end up in the Pope's larder. We taste it first, just to make sure that it has all the qualities he requires.
It's sweet and mellow.
Yes, it's sweet and mellow. The resulting mash left after the first pressing is pressed again to produce a second cold-pressed oil. The mash is spread out between metal discs.
We turn the pressure on and take it very slowly. Very slowly.
There are pistons in the oil which work to pressurize the water. And there's a pressure regulator, and the pressure increases on every turn. It goes from 0 to 400 bars of pressure. And this is what has been produced in the last 10 days. Castel Gandolfo's farm is like a manifesto. The vegetables in the greenhouses, the fruit in the orchards, and nature as a whole have not been subjected to any violence. It's as if they were a pact between the church and the natural world to bring together around the table notions of pleasure, respect for nature, and the faith of those who want to believe. When bishops and cardinals from all over the world come to Rome to discuss church affairs with the Pope, culinary matters are probably the furthest thing from their minds. It seems odd considering their religion has over the centuries influenced our way of eating. It has also contributed to formalizing the typical Western meal and making it what it is today, both ritual and feast.